have Jake Paul, who everybody kind of hates, right? I mean, I think it's the problem child is his nickname. So today is not directly related to fitness. This is going to be about MMA, boxing, specifically Jake Paul versus Ben Askren. I've had a number of people in the comments section and in my DMs say that I should make some MMA related videos because it is something I'm interested in. So I'll say up front, if you have no interest in fighting, MMA, anything like that, this is probably not the video for you. That's fine. Just check out all the other fitness content that I have. Since this is my channel, I figured this is something I do want to talk about, and I'd like to see if there's any discussion down below about it and what people think. So I am definitely a fan of MMA. I follow the UFC pretty closely. I don't follow too much with Bellator or some of the other organizations. Not surprisingly, some of these celebrity boxing matches have gotten more popular recently. Those who are in fitness know that there is a upcoming boxing match between Eddie Hall and Hafthor, who is the Mountain from Game of Thrones. And you know, when you look at that, it's like, are these actually good boxers? Probably not, right? And people who are, I think, purists, they will say, well, why are we going to watch these people? They shouldn't. They are tarnishing the name of boxing. But the reality is, it's like not many people actually watch boxing anymore, right? I mean, how many people watch Mike Tyson's comeback compared to who's watching who? I mean, there's a few people now, right? Like Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, like maybe 3 or 4 names that maybe most people know, but even then, probably not. The Mike Tyson comeback was this huge thing, even though the guy is basically around 50 years old, because it was interesting, right? People want to see celebrities or people with some fame do these things. It's also more reasonable than to say, like, let's have an MMA match, because there's too much damage that could be done. You can't have people, you know, kneeing each other in the face and things like that. I mean, you could, I guess, but for the most part, I think it's more sensible with, you know, YouTube celebrities and things like that to say, hey, let's do a boxing match and see how that goes versus let's do an all-out MMA fight. I can understand people saying, oh, this is like a mockery of the sport and this is ridiculous. I haven't been that interested in boxing previously, and with some of these matches, I got more into it. Actually, one of the ways I became more interested in MMA was when Floyd Mayweather fought Conor McGregor, obviously in boxing, and I remember going to the bars that night, and in the city I was in, it was completely packed. It was just like every bar you tried to go to, you couldn't get in. We actually had to watch it from outside through the window. Huge fan base there, and that got a lot more people into it. So I understand why people can hate on it, but I think it's actually a good way to build up notoriety, and it can get more people involved in the sport and interested in it. Regarding Jake Paul versus Ben Askren, this is something I was interested to hear people's takes on. And it's funny because, like, I'll talk about fitness, and I have a lot of friends who are into fitness. I've met people through the fitness industry and through the podcast. I don't know that many people directly who are into MMA. In my real life, I don't know that many people who are into it. So I'm going to discuss it here, and this is basically my rant. So I would be curious to know what people think about the upcoming fight, because basically you have Jake Paul, who everybody kind of hates, right? I mean, I think it's the problem child is his nickname. And, you know, Logan Paul was the popular, more well-known brother who had this whole controversy a few years ago. And now he seems like a pretty sensible guy. I've actually watched a couple of the episodes of his podcast, and he seems relatively normal, whereas Jake, you know, whether it's a show to gain popularity or whatnot, who knows? But he comes across as, you know, he irritates people. He's very cocky. He just seems annoying to a lot of people. Ben Askren, for those who don't know, is a very decorated wrestler. He went to the Olympics. I think he placed 6th at the Olympics. I think he's a 2-time NCAA champion. A very good wrestler. Has a complete dad bod. Somebody who most people watching this might see on the street and think this guy could not beat up anybody. And it's truly amazing to me to see. I mean, we know that a great body doesn't correlate with being able to fight, but when you see somebody who looks totally like a dad bod, it's surprising. The guy is a beast. He was, I think, 19-0 going into UFC. He had a controversial win over Robbie Lawler, and people who maybe even aren't into MMA might have seen his knockout, where he was knocked out at the fastest knockout that's ever occurred. Jorge Masvidal had a knee basically to his neck and knocked him out right away. And from there, he just never got the traction to, you know, get back into it and really do well. His idea was to be a world champion, and frankly, when you look at him losing to like Damian Maia, who was ranked 10th at the time, it doesn't look like he would ever have been able to beat the best of the best, but he still could have been maybe one of the top 5 fighters ever. And maybe in his prime, he could have been the best, who knows? For anybody who is kind of curious about this, just look up Ben Askren striking. It seems crazy that a YouTuber is gonna fight a top MMA athlete, right? Somebody who was, one of the best. How is this even possible? But when you look up Ben Askren's striking, it's really bad, and I'm not saying that I could do so much better or anything like that. But usually when you watch somebody at that high level, you can see they're fast, they have good accuracy, their pace is proper. And when you look at his striking, it's just amazing that he got as far as he did with that level of striking. So seeing him go up against Jake Paul, who when you watch his videos, it's very easy to look good on the bags, although again, Ben Askren doesn't, but it's easy to look good on the bags or when you have a very bad opponent. So I can't say that he's going to be this great boxer, but he seems to have knockout power, and people who have watched him say that the guy's got hands. So Dana White, actually, the president of UFC, bet $1 million that Ben Askren will win. So he's showing confidence. He got him coaching with Freddie Roach, a famous boxing coach. So that's interesting, and hopefully it helps. And I'm totally rooting for Ben. The only thing I can think is if he can kind of dirty box, if he can get him in a clinch and just tire him out. He's taken massive hits from the best fighters in the world, and only once has ever been knocked out. So if he can take Jake's hits, tire him out, get him into the later rounds, kind of just wear on him, and then eventually maybe get like a TKO, that's the only thing I could see happening. But I gotta say, people say, oh, but he's a fighter, he's an athlete. And it's like, man, we've all known somebody who was athletic who then got trounced in something else. I mean, when Jake Paul fought Nate Robinson, Nate Robinson is a former NBA star. As an athlete, he's a way better athlete than Jake Paul, and he got completely embarrassed because that's not the skill that he practiced, right? And boxing is a skill. Even more so, I would say that you get some freaks who can be a good fighter because they have all these things at their disposal. It's rare to see that, but they have all these aspects versus the skill of boxing, or somebody who's athletic, but they don't have the skill of tennis or something like that. When you're talking about a specific sport, you'll see this with Floyd Mayweather is actually going to box Logan Paul. Logan Paul is way bigger, way stronger, way heavier. And everybody knows he's of course going to lose to Floyd because it's a skill of boxing and he's facing one of the best. So I think I'm just curious to see what happens. I will definitely be watching. So I'm interested to see if you guys are going to be watching, what you guys think about it, and who you think is going to win, and also how you think they're going to win. I don't see Jake Paul pulling off like a really early knockout. I mean, unless Ben Askren's chin has just become terrible in the last couple of years. The guy has been slammed and kneed and punched and everything and only been knocked out once ever. So I have a hard time believing that Jake Paul is going to just knock him out like that. But I do think over time it's going to wear on him, and the only thing that Ben has is just general fighting experience and the ability to, take a hit and probably better cardio. But I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. I'd love to know what you guys think about the fight, if you think this is really interesting or just a total ridiculous show, a total mockery. So let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this at all, give it a thumbs up. Let me know, because if nobody wants to see anything like this, I probably won't talk about it. But if there's a general interest in MMA, I might make some other comments and some other videos. So let me know, guys, and I will talk to you next time.